Hello, good evening, all beautiful ladies. We are again here with our Sky High Symposium series. Myself, Syeda Bansal, Secretary of Vasai branch. Today, on behalf of the Women and Young Member Excellence Committee of the I extend warm welcome all of you of this series. It's a platform created by this committee to share the technical skill and enhance the non-technical skill also our members to encourage the confidently express themselves in the public forum. This initiative aims to empower and inspire our members to step forward and make the most of their abilities. The chairperson of this committee, Priti Savla ma'am, to her we know very well the chairperson of the Sustainability Board also and the vice chairperson of the Valuation Standard Board for the financial year 23-24. And our Abhay Chatterjee, sir, the vice chairman of this committee, also the chairman of the Commercial Law Economic Advisory and NPO Cooperative and vice chairman of Accounting Standard Board also. This Wednesday program series has been thoughtfully designed to the natural growth and development of our women and young members. This series is not just about technical update, but it's platform to cultivate the non-technical skill and empower our women to shine confidently on the public stage. Today's session holds the promise to enlightenment as we explore the themes. Today's topic, as you all know, the audit and documentation of the small and medium enterprises with our today expert speaker of CA Meenakshi Gupta ji. So I request everyone to yourself take the full round of applause for her. So now I request everyone that we have the beautiful lady with us, CA Meenakshi Gupta. So I will, as a protocol of the institute, she does not require any introduction, but we will go according to the protocol. She is possesses the 21 years of strong course functional knowledge, people management, and interpersonal skill for the operational excellence. She is qualified as chartered accountant in the November 1998 in the first attempt. Currently, she is partner in Gupta Rustagi and Company. Currently, she is pursuing DISA course also. And she has the so many strengths. Out of them, extensive experience in auditing of big size organization, including the companies and partnership firm. Drive continuous process improvement and quality incentives, including streamlining team. Extensively study in Indian AS and applicability of the same in the previous companies during the conversation stage. His interpersonal and communication skill is very excellent, result orientation and focused approach. She have the so many achievements. So out of them, I shorted the sums that are the she is core member of the VAL. VAL is a woman entrepreneur learner to lead. Speaker in seminar conducted at various forms, coordinator in the various WRC seminar, being a member of Corporate and Allied Law Committee of WRC in 2019 and 20, contributed in few publications of the committee. In 2020 and 21, she is nominated member of the Women Empowerment Member Committee of WIRC. He is reviewer of the publication of this committee of ICAI associated with the training academy named Gyan Nation Academy LLP with an objective to conduct seminar training session on various technical matters concerning our profession. I would like to welcome on behalf of everyone Meenakshi Gupta ma'am. Please continue with your session.
Thank you so much, Jaya. I think I'm talking to Jaya.
Daya.
Daya. Okay. Thank you so much, Daya Agarwal. It was a very extensive introduction, which is actually not required. So we as professionals, it is our moral responsibility to, use our experience and provide to all the upcoming and budding chartered accountants. They are already all CAs on the board right now who are attending this particular webinar. So they are already experts. But of course, making them more expert is, our motto. And as Preeti says, that women needs to, kind of brush up their knowledge very at various points of time. They come across the breaks in their career due to family and stuff like that. So it is very essential that this kind of webinars continue. And it's a extremely useful initiative by WYMEC by conducting these Sky High symposiums. Well, I would now go to the topic of today. So I'll just share my screen, though it is not a very, very extensive PPT, but I tried to jot down few things for the benefit of the participants. See, audit is something which is the core subject in for a chartered accountant. You go in indirect taxes, you go in direct taxes, but I think audit will always remain the crux of the CA profession. So it is the base of the CA profession. And of course, we, during our articleship period, I think many of us intend to go for audit work only because we try to understand the in-depth knowledge. Audit gives us a very good insight into the businesses. If you go into direct and indirect taxes, I won't say that they don't give you insight, but they give you a limited insight by of that particular area. But audit is something which covers the entire functioning of a company, and it gives you a very good insight into the functioning of the company. The entire results of the company depend on that. Whereas other areas are limited to the areas where these things are allocated. But audit is something, of course, everybody is very well aware of what is audit, because without reading that audit, paper, CA just cannot succeed. That is, everyone knows about it. So we then the next thing is, I'll just okay. So our topic for today is audit and documentation SMEs. So my intention is not today to teach you how audit is to be conducted, because I think that is already everybody has, most of you must have accustomed audit during your some time or the other of your career. But the major problem which remains, which is a challenge before young CAs and even established CAs, is the documentation part. Because what happens that we conduct audit for the sake of presentation of financial statements and presenting our report, but what goes behind that financial statements and audit reports is the most important thing. And we as CAs need to maintain very good documentation to justify your work. So it not only justifies your work, it also protects you from future issues which may arise in case the financial statements are have some shortcomings or something. Your audit documentation should be so strong that it will not be a difficult task for you to establish the the process behind the opinion which you have expressed. So it is a very, very important part, documentation. So our main focus will be on the documentation part. Of course, audit process will be there, but we will just touch upon those audit processes. We will more concentrate on the documentation part. So we are mainly looking at small and medium enterprises, because in large enterprises, I think, already very well equipped teams take care of that. And they already get very good training to conduct those large enterprises audit. But for small and medium enterprises, somewhere I feel that few of us might be lacking in our approach of maintaining documentation. So now, to help us out, ICAI came up with many, many publications, whole lot of publications they have come up with. The major ones being Practitioner's Guide to Audit of Small Entities, which was published in 2020. That gives a very good insight. It gives very good tables and, a good insight into how audit is to be conducted for small entities. But recently, in June 2023, ICAI has come up with one of the publications, which is Audit Working Paper Templates. Though this is I would say, is a revolutionary publication of ICAI for small and medium practitioners. Because, it gives you it covers the entire process of audit, right from how it is to be conducted, right from the initiation of audit stage till the closure of audit. So I think everyone should get hold of this particular publication of ICI. If anybody doesn't have this, then they can get in touch with WYMEC, and I will be very happy to share that publication so that everybody it becomes very handy for everyone. It is a very useful publication for mid and small size firms, and the audit teams get a very good ready reference because it contains so many checklists. The entire audit process is documented, and you can convert it into Word, and those documents can be circulated amongst the audit team. I'm very sure that they will be. It will be kind of. I would not say it is a spoon feeding in audit process, but it gives a very good ready reference of how audit documentation is to be maintained. So if you miss any vital part, then this documentation, it will help you it will remind you of including that in your audit process. It is very useful in the peer review process also, because now so many listed companies are there on board. So it is virtually impossible for big four or large size firms only to cover those listed companies. And now even unlisted companies, large unlisted companies are coming in peer review process, and peer review board is also considering other CA firms who do not fall under listed company audits or large companies, to cover the peer review processes to be covered even for them. So we need to gear up to maintain our audit documentation in case we want to continue our audit work smoothly. Because if you have to get your firm peer reviewed, your documentation needs to be really strong, because peer reviewers take very good care of how and where they ensure that your audit documentation is strong enough to justify your audit and assurance part. uh, then this is a glimpse of how this publication looks like. It's working paper templates. It is called Audit Working Paper Templates. This is June 2023 edition is available for us. So it's a very latest edition. So though for audit summary memorandums or essays or accounting standards or NDS, whatever it is, for that you have to refer to other publications. And that is the resource which are available for us to conduct audit process. But this will give you very good insight into the working paper maintenance. Now, it has got various sections. Just to it contains various sections. Mainly, it is divided into various sections. First chapter is on appointment. So appointment itself, there are 4 to 5 processes involved in the appointment of an auditor. The first process is need to maintain a note on appointment as to how we will go into the details of each chapter when we after I cover the topics which are included there in the this particular book. My main crux will be on this publication, because as per me, it is one of the, you can consider it as a Bible to conduct audit process. So it contains right from appointment, filing of ADT1, engagement acceptance, engagement letter, independence confirmation, confidentiality undertakings. So these are all parts of appointment of auditor. Now, the second chapter contains the planning part. Planning also, we've always say the well started is, if the start is good, the end has to be good. So your planning needs to be very strong to conduct an audit. And to justify any particular audit outcome of any audit, you need to establish that your planning was strong. So planning has lot of steps which needs to be taken care of. We need to plan the scope of engagement. Of course, in my main emphasis would be on statutory audit. Though you can consider this also in internal audit, there only the appointment of auditor formalities would be different, because there don't need to file ADT1 or stuff like that. But more or less the process remains the same. So planning scope of engagement, then we need to have minutes of planning meeting. If you maintain minutes of planning meeting, it will be very easy for you to establish that what things were considered while planning the audit. Then team mobilization, how did you mobilize the team? What designations you gave? What responsibilities were allocated to each and every team member? Then the audit strategy, that how audit is to be conducted, what strategy is to be taken care of while conducting an audit. Then note on understanding client, because if you have a new client, you need to maintain a extensive documentation on understanding the client via, like how KYC is there for any particular business activity, similarly, you need to know your client. So understanding client, its business, key people involved in the business, all these things need to be maintained as audit document. Then minutes of kickoff meeting, like when you start the audit, that minutes need to be maintained because that meeting is a very crucial meeting where you will delegate your team with the audit work. Then you need to maintain a note on basis of materiality, like what materiality level you have fixed for the particular audit, whether what numbers are material for you, so that those numbers are not ignored by your audit team. Then we need to have documentation on significant risks and planned procedures. So how the risks were identified, what are the significant risks at the initiation stage, and how do you plan to cover those risks, mitigate those risks. Fraud risk, so that is also, now we all know how many frauds are being conducted. Financial frauds are there, then so many management frauds are there. So you need to safeguard yourself from that risk. So that risk needs to be, fraud risk needs to be taken care of. Testing strategy, how you are going to test each and every aspect of financial statement, your reporting part, all the strategy needs to be documented. Preliminary analytical review, when you conduct a audit, you need to first preliminary analytical review, we need to do ratio analysis and stuff like that. Then you do to variance analysis, work allocation. So all this forms part of planning stage. Then initial audit checklist needs to be maintained, evidence of communication of initial audit checklist, communication of audit schedule, because if you don't allocate audit schedule, then you will not be able to justify the time taken for the audit period. Because see, if there are significant delays from the management side, you can always say that our initial planning was this, and actually due to the lapse of the management or due to some unavoidable circumstances, the audit got delayed. And that will safeguard you from future surprises. Then audit requirement schedule 3 and caro, those needs to be taken care of. Then we will come to this, all this in a little slightly later stage. Then the execution part, in the execution part we need to cover head wise, each and every head wise we need to cover how this particular account balance was tested, is to be tested, and how it was actually tested, who conducted the testing and who reviewed it, what documents were verified, everything needs to be maintained in that particular execution part. Then other procedures are, other than financial statements, there are so many other things we are all aware of. That is, we need to test going concern, we need to check into subsequent events, related party disclosures, contingent liabilities needs to be identified. If you're using the work of an expert, then that needs to be taken care of. Internal auditors reports are to be considered. Secretarial compliances needs to be taken care of. If ESOPs are there, then what are the regulations governing ESOPs and how those have been adhered to. So all these are other procedures. Then comes the most important financial reporting part, where accounting policies needs to be looked into, each and every accounting policy followed. If any change is there, that needs to be taken care of. Notes to accounts and disclosures, schedule 3 checklist, caro checklist, all this, believe me, all these publications are part of this publication. When I go into the details, I will show you some glimpses of what kind of documentations are being given in this particular publication. Then completion section. Completion section has audit report and financial statements, audit issues and closure. If you have identified, important issues, how did you deal with it? How did you close that? All these documentation are part of your audit documentation. Then you need to have a quality control review process. Now, if you see, even when you fill NAFRA forms, NAFRA 2 forms or something, so there is always a very important section that your engagement the partner who is conducting the engagement is one, and then who is takes care of the quality control part, that is another partner who should take care of this. Or if you don't have partner, then it can have an audit manager and partner. So that kind of process should be in place. Then you need to have management representation letter on board. So I mean to say that if you miss any significant part, this documentation which I'm discussing will not let you miss anything. It will cover each and every audit aspect. Then actual man hours being given. Then final analytical review. When you look at the financial statements, finally, the partners or senior partner or the quality partner when looks into it, or maybe the senior manager looks into it. So they will conduct a final analytical review. then they will, be very well assured that, the audit has been conducted properly and there is no surprises there. Then the communication with the audit committee, CARO checklist, partner review documents, and then the closure. Procedures for clients' documents are also there listed down in this particular publication. Now, if we, 1 minute. Yeah. So now audit, we have already done this. The first section is appointment. So there we have engagement acceptance. Now, if you see in the, there are a draft format of engagement letter also available in this particular format. So many people, whenever you conduct an audit, you will get calls from your fellow chartered accountants that do you have a format of engagement letter? We have a requirement of having, again, so many people skip this very important aspect of audit. You should never skip this particular aspect. Engagement letter is the starting point of an audit. So this needs to be a mandatory document in your audit process. Engagement letter. So this publication contains the entire draft of the engagement letter. So, we if we face challenges of drafting an engagement letter, we can, as a ready reference, this engagement letter will give you a very good insight, very good help to draft an engagement letter. So this becomes very handy. Then there is a client engagement acceptance checklist. I will not get into the each and every point of this client engagement acceptance checklist. I'm just giving you a glimpse how it looks like in the audit working paper templates, publication. So it gives you a question answer kind of thing where it gives you the requirements what are to be fulfilled and what is your response to it. So their client engagement actually that any significant transaction structured to achieve revenue recognition. There are lot many questions that the risk assessment criteria are be given for to which response is to be given. I will not go into the details of it. Then independence declaration. That is very important because to justify an audit, a partner or conducting the audit should be independent. They should not have any vested interest in the enterprise where you are actually auditing it. We are all very well aware of it, but this confirmation needs to be on your working paper also. That this was taken care of, that there is no hindrance to the independence part. So even your code of ethics part will get addressed by this independence declaration if it is on your working paper. Then we need to come into, as we saw, there are various other points like confidentiality and client engagement acceptance checklist. We already, I think, discussed this. Confidentiality undertakings. So that is also important that, all the documents which are shared by the clients are will be confidential, and how you will maintain the confidentiality. You need to give an undertaking as to the client that these clients documents will be confidential, will not be shared with unauthorized people. So that is a very important part, because if suppose something gets out of your team members, then the blame will come on the auditor that the client documents were not kept confidential. So if you give an undertaking to that, then you will always have that in mind that how this confidentiality is to be maintained, and accordingly we can guide our teams to maintain this confidentiality. Then we come to the second section. Second section is planning and audit. Now, as I already told you, planning and audit is always the most important chapter in conducting an audit. Because if your planning is strong, your audit result is automatically going to be extremely satisfactory to you. So we need to have a scope of engagement where audit planning memorandum is to be maintained. So there you will mention about understanding client's business, the client's organization structure you will maintain, or who are the key persons whom the interaction will be done. All these things will need to be maintained in the audit planning memorandum. The minutes of planning meeting, that needs to be maintained in details where you will list down what are the preliminary discussion which undertake between planning, discussion about the entity, then agenda for next meeting. Because planning meeting is the first meeting for the audit. Then of course you have to lay a guideline of the next meeting where what will be taken care of in the next meeting. Then closure procedure, how the closure will be done. Then note on basis of materiality, that needs to be maintained, that if we see ahead, yeah, audit planning contains like all these checklist kind of thing, where engagement scope is mentioned, and financial reporting framework, which accounting standards needs to be taken care of, what are the key regulatory requirements which of course of Companies Act, or if any other information technology act is there applicable in the company, that needs to be taken care of. Any industry specific requirement is there or not, like if suppose you are auditing a construction business, then what are the industry specific requirements? If you are looking into an IT company, what are the requirements of that particular key, what will be the key focus area, whether revenue will be the key focus area or PPE will be the key focus area. Suppose it's an infrastructure company, then in infrastructure company the PPE and the inventory becomes very more important than the revenue, because the revenue can be depend upon the timelines how it will be recognized, but the main focus area will be of infrastructure company will be revenue, PPE or the inventory. So that needs to be given focus to. So all these needs to be covered in the audit planning stage. So if you have this kind of documentation, your team will be very well guided as to how audit is to be conducted. So if these are on paper in your audit file, this will always give you a very good support in your decisions which you make during the audit process. Then note on materiality. Now, this needs to be maintained as a audit document, because we can't keep in mind that, that 5 lakh rupees is material for me or 10 lakh rupees is material to me. How you have arrived at that figure, that needs to be justified. Because suppose if some, lapse happens in a later stage, then you come to know that, okay, 10 lakh was not material, you're seeing my revenue. So whether your materiality has been decided on the basis of revenue, because if it's a trading or manufacturing company, then revenue will be a very important base for you. If it's as already mentioned, if it's a construction company or infrastructure company, then maybe PPE will be the base for you, because assets will be the main part of it. If it's a service company, then profit before tax can be critical, because in service company the profit before tax needs to be of certain some percentages to be maintained for the service industry. Then how the trivial threshold is arrived at. Suppose the lapse of 5 lakh rupees is happening, suppose a 5 lakh rupees of misstatement is there, whether for that company, if the company is of suppose 100 crore turnover is there, maybe it will not be a small enterprise, I can say maybe 20 crore turnover is there, for that company 2 lakh rupees can be not material. So all that, how it was considered, how overall materiality was decided at the planning stage, what the materiality was decided, then at the performance stage how the materiality was arrived at. So overall materiality will be maintained by you, and then difference between planning materiality and performance materiality can be conducted. So this note will very form a very important aspect of planning stage. Then preliminary analytical review, this I think we have been doing since our articleship days, that when we get a financial statement, we always do a comparison of last 2 years or 3 years. And if any variance is there, then we come to know, okay, this is the area where we need to focus on. Suppose the change in the preliminary analytical review comes in PPE. So of course, you will concentrate more on the additions of PPE. Suppose a huge amount of change comes in revenue, then that will cause a bell, that will ring a bell in your mind that, okay, revenue, there is a significant jump. So what has caused that significant jump? So this preliminary analytical review will help you in justifying your planning part. So if you maintain that in your working paper, it will come very, very handy to you. Believe me, it will give you a very good base on in your audit process. So this is also very important. Then audit team. They in as after you decide the materiality, after you decide the having a preliminary analytical review, you will discuss the audit team. So in small enterprises, maybe the team is only of 3 people, but still you will area wise you will identify these 3 people will how they will justify the audit. Who will be the engagement partner, then quality review, maybe partner is the engagement partner, and next level comes in only the manager or maybe the assistant, then team members are only articles. But you can always maintain this. So in future if something happens, this audit team documentation will give you even after 5 years, you look into that, then you will come to know, okay, these people conducted the audit and the roles and responsibilities were assigned in this way. So this will become very handy to you. Then the timelines, audit schedule, because to conduct any audit, we can't go like endlessly do an audit. We always have to maintain an audit schedule which is fixed at the start of the audit process. So there, the audit planning comes in like July, whatever the dates are there. We don't go into what are the various timing of audit activities. That when by when audit is to planning is to be done, by when the preliminary review should be over, then by when the review of engagement partner will be there, what will be the when by when the audit summary memorandum is prepared, then when the financial audit report and financials have to be finalized. Sometimes you have to go backward. That audit report. In fact, every time you have to go backward because once your date of audit report and financials is frozen, accordingly you go backward and decide how well in advance you need to do the audit planning. So all these needs to be documented. Everything, if you keep in mind and all in memory, it will not give you. It will really not help you in maintaining this timelines because this will always just all this will justify your work at a later stage. Then comes the another chapter where the risk analysis is conducted. Now we all know that audits are conducted mainly to mitigate the risks which are there associated with the financial statements. So what are the significant risks and planned procedures headwise? So each and every headwise we need to maintain that what is the significant risk in this particular head. Head means balance sheet items or the P&L items like PPE, share capital, loans and advances, debtors, trade receivables, trade payables, and stuff like that. So for each and every audit head, you need to have significant risks identified and planned procedures for it. If there are no risks, then you are at a better placed. Then what are the fraud risks? We mentioned that in the initial introduction stage. What will be the testing strategy? Balance sheet item, P&L items. Each and every item, there will be a testing strategy. It will be maintained in a checklist kind of format. We'll see just now. Then the variance analysis of each and every balance sheet and P&L head. All these needs to be. I hope I'm not going too fast. Coordinators.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I'm not going too fast, right? Just
No.
in case there is any rushing around. Okay. Okay, now significant risks and planned procedures. This kind of table needs to be maintained in that significant risks and planned procedures. So each and every head, like revenue is there. Then you will see completion. What are the assertions that the revenue should be completely booked? What are the cutoff procedures? What is the accuracy of revenue which is booked? So what are the potential risks that can be there? So one of the, as we all know, what is the potential risk that the revenue for the year is materially misstated. That can be a potential risk. So we need to have balance confirmation. We need to what procedures we need to adopt. I'm not teaching you the audit part, but I'm telling you how you maintain this particular audit documentation, where you can justify that how you ensured that the revenue is the risk associated with revenue is taken care of. How did you plan it? So all this, if is documented, it will give you a really comfortable space. Purchases, similar to revenue, completeness, cutoff, accuracy. So whether purchases are recorded properly or not. So what is the significant risk that they are not recorded completely? Inventory, physical inventory has been verified or not. Checking valuation of inventory. All these are planned procedures. We all know headwise what we have to do. But if you maintain that in your audit documentation, your team will not miss those processes. So this is just a glimpse of it. I have not mentioned each and every headwise should be the planned procedures because that you will, as an auditor, you are well aware of. But how you have to maintain the documentation is the most important. So I have just taken an illustration. It's basically a screenshot of that audit documentation check templates book where they have shown how you will maintain these illustrative. These are all illustrative in nature. Then you come to the P&L part. There we mentioned that was also P&L. Okay. So fraud risk. Okay. Fraud risk may what you see that the what is the risk associated in this company. If suppose the company has heavy loans, then there can be a significant risk that the company will try to overstate their revenue to justify the loans being taken. Because of course the companies who provide loans, for them revenue is the most critical part. PAT comes later, but revenue is the most important part. So there will always be a tendency by the management to overstate the revenue, so that becomes a fraud risk area. I'm not saying a fraud will be there, but then you need to have procedures in place to mitigate that fraud risk. That kind of processes are taken care of where this kind of fraud risk can be averted. And if it is at all there, then it can be easily detected. So if these procedures are in place, then your team will be very well aware of that what are the areas where they need to concentrate on to overcome this fraud risk. So this is there. Then testing strategy. Now here, if you see this table, I don't know whether it is, it's a slightly, letters are small. It's visible. Okay. I hope it is visible. So, what are the testing strategy? Here we are mentioning only the planning part. Still, we are in the planning stage where we conduct that, okay, property, plant, and equipment. We will see that what is the materiality, whether that is there, controlled review testing has been done or not, analytical procedures have been conducted or not. So, these are all yes, no kind of thing. So, if you miss a particular aspect, then when you do the tick off of this particular process, you will ensure that this is being done. Suppose you skip this part, then this documentation will always remind you, okay, I missed this part. We need to conduct an analytical procedure on PP. Then what are the deviations you find? If test of deviations are there, then what you will check? What are the key procedures to be performed for each and every head? So each and every balance sheet item, each and every P&L item, you need to have this testing strategy. What all needs to be checked to ensure that there is no overstatement or understatement of a particular item. As we all have a approach that assets, we have a risk of assets being overstated and liability being understated. So all this documentation procedure will be taken care of if these are on paper. These are all audit file. I would say this should be many auditors I have seen maintain this audit documentation at a later stage. No, during the audit stage itself, this documentation should be maintained. We should not, at the end of the audit process, if you do this, it doesn't make any sense. It will be kind of a formality. So I would say that everybody should have a habit of this documentation being kept very handy for the team so that, this is actually put into practice and not remain a mere documentation. Then testing strategy, as I mentioned, yeah. Okay. Now here the balance sheet items are there with this is the variance analysis. So when you conducted that preliminary review, then you will have a variance analysis in place. That as we already mentioned in the preliminary, now here you will identify the reason of the variance and then you will further investigate into the particular account head. Then audit procedures, financial statements, what the actual execution stage. So audit testing checklist with responsibilities needs to be maintained. Headwise control chart needs to be there, having procedures and actual observation. Examples like debtors, ECL to be obtained, trade payables list to be obtained, balance confirmation to be obtained, final remarks, significant observations will go to audit summary memorandum. So all the whatever the outcome of this audit procedure is there will go to the ASM. We call in short ASM. So audit summary memorandum. So there, you will what happens that during the audit space audit process, many points come into. We see many points are there, but what we don't note them properly. So you make a habit of make a document called audit summary memorandum. Whatever significant observation is there during the audit procedure, you carry forward like how we carry forward account balance to the balance sheet, a trial balance, then trial balance to balance sheet. Similarly, in audit process, we have the audit procedures checklist There, whatever observations are there, if they are significant enough, then that should go to the ASM, so that your seniors, your manager or your partner will be not overlook that. Because for a partner coming at a very later stage of audit, it becomes really difficult for him to identify any important observation at that stage, and then that might get skipped, which may cause a misstatement of financial statements. So this process is a very, very critical process. Now, as I mentioned, work allocation should to be noted, that what happens initially we decided what work will be performed by whom. Now here, this work allocation is what is actually done. Because sometimes what happens at planning stage, we decide that Mr. A and Mr. B will perform this particular work. But then during the actual process, actually Mr. C and Mr. D does it. So there is a variation in that part. So here we will maintain what is the actual work allocation which was done. So who did the planning, who reviewed that planning, who completed that work, who reviewed that work, how was this was executed by suppose by two articles, reviewed by Mr. T, he may be a manager. Assets, each and every asset, who took care of. PPE was checked by whom, PPE was reviewed by whom. Obviously, there should be a maker checker type of concept. So if work is done by somebody, it needs to be reviewed by a senior person. So all this chronology needs to be maintained. So this, will always help you in pinpointing responsibility in case any lapse is there in the audit process. So this will help you in your analysis later. Then we come to control. Work allocation we did. Control chart headwise. Now here the entire detailed process is there, where control chart will be there, where you will lay down the procedure. Here we will write both the things. What was the planned procedure? What the actual work was there? If there is any important remark there, then that will come. And what is the status? It is open or closed. It will be a dynamic document. So dynamic document, why I'm saying, because this will keep on changing. Because here planned procedure will be listed beforehand. Then when actual work will be done, they will list down the entire works, because during the audit stage, there are various stages where you will seek a clarification from the management or the team. And later on, suppose that remains open till the end of the audit. So if you miss that, then it might get missed. But if this audit documentation is maintained, it will never get missed. So if it has an open status, then it will all obviously get highlighted even at a later stage of audit. Oh, this remained open. I was conducting PPE test, but very important WIP details we did not get. So that will remain open. If the status is open, then that will go to ASM ultimately. This was not checked only. So this kind of control chart needs to be maintained for each and every head of balance sheet and P&L. So, this will always help you in not missing. Sorry, you will never miss a particular aspect of audit. Similarly, for how we did for balance sheet item, similarly for P&L item, what control strategy we took, what are the planned procedures, GST, how do you check revenue? Nowadays, we have a very handy thing that we have got a GST reports. So GSTR 1s are reviewed, GSTR 3Bs are reviewed, where you come to know, okay, this is, we need to check this. The reconciliation with the sales register needs to be maintained. If that is not checked and that remains open till the end of the audit, the status will come as GST, will come as open. And then you will, at a later stage, you will conduct the audit. The partners will look into it. If suppose that remains still open at the end of it. Now, after the balance sheet and P&L items, the audit is not over. We all know that. There are so many other things we need to be looking into, like the base of the audit which is there. We all know that these going concern needs to be checked into. That where the net worth is negative, key financial ratios are scrutinized. You have already maintained those key financial ratios in the terms of preliminary analytical review and the final analytical review. If there are operating or cash losses, then going concern is whether affected or not. Payments are regular or not. Sometimes it happens that the net worth is positive, key financial ratios are also satisfactory, but key financial ratios, only certain ratios will get affected due to the payments being irregular. But that will raise an alarm on the going concern point. Subsequent events review. So many times the balance sheet date is after the balance sheet date, a very significant event comes into place. So that review checklist will be maintained. So all these documents, why I'm mentioning, we all know that this is to be conducted, but these checklists are available in that particular document. So these checklists will be there, and so you will tick off all these checklists. Okay, this we have already verified. Subsequent events were taken care of. Internal controls over financial reporting. Internal controls report is the part of the statutory audit report. So that needs to be checked whether internal controls are existing, they are in place or not. Related party transactions. So these will not form part of your financial statements. This is to be separately conducted. Related party transactions and contingent liabilities. Then you need to go to the legal experts who are there or legal team, that whether there are any contingent liabilities, whether there are any assessment orders which are there. So these are all separate work. For that also you need to have audit procedures in place. What you need to check to ensure that contingent liabilities are not there, or if they are there, then they are properly disclosed. If suppose you're using the work of an expert by, for example, you get a valuation done of a particular thing, like for example, if the shares are being valued or your investments are being valued. So you rely on the work of experts. So you need to maintain that in your audit documentation, that the certain experts' work has been relied upon. So these we know we have to do, but so many times it gets skipped. Then the secretarial compliances need to be taken care of. All the minutes need to be obtained. Minutes have to be gone through. Work of internal auditors. The internal audit reports need to be obtained, whether there are any significant observations that got skipped. So these are all very other important other audit procedures which need to be taken care of for completion of the audit. Then, of course, the last stage is there, which is the financial reporting. So accounting policies, whether they have been adhered to, notes to the accounts and disclosures. This I have not mentioned the details of it because, if I go into each and every detail of it, it will be like teaching you audit part. So my intention is not to teach you audit, but my intention is to guide you on how audit documentation needs to be maintained for all this. So accounting policies, for that, I will, if I go one by one, then suppose we have an accounting policy of recognizing revenue in a certain way, whether that has been done or not. Suppose inventory is to be valued in a certain manner, so that has to be, that has accounting policy has been adhered to or not. So all the accounting policies you have to list down in a particular sheet, and there you have to ensure that those procedures are being put, that these are the accounting policies, what procedure has been taken to ensure that these accounting policies are not overridden. And if there is any change in accounting policy, then we need to go into that particular part of it, that the change in accounting policy needs to be highlighted. The impact of it needs to be highlighted. Notes to accounts and disclosures. There are so many other things that which are significant to reporting. Sometimes in the financial statements, they are not coming into picture. For example, some amalgamation process is taking place. What is the development on that? Suppose some litigation is taking place. What is the development of that? If it is significant enough for the reader of the financial statement to understand, we need to give a disclosure to that effect. Schedule 3 checklist. So this checklist is a very, very important checklist because my financial statement should adhere to Schedule 3. So what happens if you have a checklist, then it will be become very handy for you that how this particular account balance is to be reported. Now, see, we know there are in the last year there was significant changes in the Schedule 3. For example, we now in the financial statements on the face of the balance sheet, you need to give a disclosure of medium and small, outstanding of trade creditors, trade payables of small and micro enterprises. All that has to be on the face of the balance sheet, on the financial statement. Then we need to disclose key financial ratios. We need to have the aging of trade receivables and trade payables in the financial statement itself. All these have been introduced in the recent past. Then all these three needs to be maintained by a checklist so that we don't miss out on that. So many times what happens, even the large audit firms, they sometimes it gets skipped. But if you have this kind of extensive, how they do not skip these particular points, because they maintain this kind of checklist. So we as small and medium enterprises also need to adhere to these checklists. We should not rely on our expert knowledge, because even there are so many changes, there are so many requirements that even experts, we experienced chartered accountants like us also skip so many times. At the end of the audit finalization, then there is a run around. Oh my God, this was left. In Schedule 3, this is to be disclosed. This working needs to be obtained, and you rush around, and then audit timelines are getting disturbed. So if this kind of checklist is there, it will always help you in keep checking each and everything, ticking each and everything in time. Then Caro checklist. We all know that the Caro was revised in 2023. No, I think yeah, it was revised in 2023. So last year only it was revised. So for 21, 22, 22, 23, we have a new Caro. So the requirements have increased. So many things have been introduced in Caro now again. There's so many things were earlier dropped. They were again introduced. So, if you need to maintain a checklist for that. So we know the Caro points, but if a checklist is there, you lay down, okay, this is the point which needs to be taken care of. This is the planned procedure which needs to be put into place. And here we are, not adhering to this Caro requirement. So here the reporting is to be done. As I mentioned you, account balance is to be taken to trial balance and then to balance sheet. I will repeat again, if whatever comes in the checklist as an open point will go to your audit summary memorandum. So during your financial closing process, you will never miss a particular thing which is to be reported. Now, audit completion. Now, this is the crux of the entire audit. Whatever we discussed so long, if this is the final, you can say the finale. So, audit completion, audit report, and financial statements. This is, of course, the main thing where you are, whatever the story is going on, is all to report this in correct way. Then what are the ASM? This was what I was mentioning right throughout my deliberation, that audit issues and closure. So this audit summary memorandum is one document which if you give it to any authority, for example, a NAFRA inquiry comes, or suppose a peer reviewer comes, that how did you check this particular thing? How did you ensure this? So your audit summary memorandum should be one document where you will be able to justify, okay, these were the audit issues which we were encountered during the audit process, and this is how we closed it, this is how we addressed it. If suppose this did not get addressed, then this is how the qualification went into the report, or this is how the disclosure went into the report, or we mitigated this by taking a management representation. How did you address that? Each and everything will be written in this ASM. So this is you can say the your report. Basically, audit report and financial statements is for the users of the financial statements, but this audit issues in ASM is your grand finale of an auditor. So this is your report which is most important for you, because the outcome of this will ultimately go into the financial statements and the audit report. Now then, engagement quality control review. See, your team has conducted review, partner has reviewed the balance sheet, but somebody has to be looking into the quality of the engagement, how it is being conducted. Whether suppose for a particular entity, inventory is the most important part. We see that when we see the audit timelines, we will see that okay, this inventory checking was done just in 2 days. It's such an important account balance. So quality control team will see how did you ensure that this account inventory balance was correctly stated just in 2 days. So they will pinpoint you with the quality control. So this aspect is very important, which should be always there in your audit documents. Even if you have a small team, your manager will do the audit, and here the partner will do. If suppose you have a multi-partner firm, then your one partner will do the engagement and another partner will do the quality control. So it can be done even in small entities also, it can be done. If suppose only articles and CA are there, so articles are doing the engagement, then the quality control will be done by the partner itself. So many a times the final engagement partner and quality partner can be the same also, depending upon the size of the firm. Then management representation letter. So many people I have seen that during, even I have been a peer reviewer myself, that we saw that their management representation letters are not given so much importance. So I I would like to tell you that management representation letter is something which is very, very critical. And each and every audit, even the smallest audit of yours, should have a management representation letter in place, because this will help you in, if you have relied on the management on certain things, because so many times you have to rely on management, what they say. For example, contingent liabilities. That is something you will not come to know unless the management gives you an information on the contingent liabilities part. So that how you will ensure verbally, if anything is there, that will never be relied upon. If you obtain a management representation letter that there are no contingent liabilities, or contingent liabilities are only to the extent of this amount, or there are contingent liabilities are there but that is not being disclosed because of certain reasons, all this will form part of management representation letter. If you see, I will show you, I think in the head, I have given a glimpse of how management representation letter looks like. Uh, okay, this is, let us, I think I missed this. I don't know why my phone is disturbing. Okay, audit summary memorandum. So this is how the audit summary memorandum should look like, where you will have a caption that this is regarding, suppose, PPE, or this is suppose regarding trade receivables. What is the issue which is there? Suppose what we see that the trade receivables long outstanding are existing. Then what are the requirements from management? Of course, the requirements from management will be balance confirmation, or there will be a subsequent recovery which is there. So what is the management response to it? The management response will be, suppose that the balance confirmation has already been obtained, or in future this amount is receivable because my delivery to that particular customer is going on. So whatever management response is there, you will list down there. How did you dispose of that particular response? Now auditor's response will come, that whether you have relied upon the management response or you have relied upon the audit documents, all this you will put in auditor's response. Then after you put your response, your disposal by audit team. So significant matters, what are the significant matters which remained open? Here you will put it. Procedure performed. So after the my response also, there is some procedure which remains to be performed, that will be listed down here. And then the final status. Okay, this is closed, or this is open, or this forms part of the qualification, or this forms part of the disclosure in the financial statements and notes to the accounts, or it is satisfactorily resolved. Everything you will mention in this audit summary memorandum. So mark my words, this will help you in future in maintaining documentation in a very satisfactory manner, and you yourself will be very satisfied that audit conducted by me is really a satisfactory one. And you will never be at loss of words when somebody asks you that, I know how you did not mitigate that risk, how you did not come across this particular misstatement. So if you have this kind of documentation, you will never be in a problem. Then you have a management representation letter will look like this. So in your this particular check audit template book I mentioned, they have already given you a format, a basic format of a management representation letter, that how they will address it to the auditor. So you can, sometimes the management does not have time to put down how management representation will be drafted. So you can give a draft of it so that, they can add their own points, and they can, mention each and every aspect. Nothing will be get missed. If you see this management representation letter, it contains each and every item of all on financial statements, notes to the accounts, contingent liabilities, other disclosures, then accounting standards which are being followed, whether there is no deviation to the accounting standard, everything will be mentioned in this management representation letter. So this is how it looks like, and it will become very handy for you to obtain management representation letter in this format. Then the statutory audit, what is this? Okay, final analytical review. So this is the final analytical review will be conducted after the audit is performed. Earlier we did preliminary analytical review, that is when you get the financials in hand, and this final analytical review happens after the ASM stage. So after the audit summary memorandum is finalized, you will again conduct a final analytical review. So if any open item which could not get addressed in the audit summary memorandum, this can be a stage where your that variation, if any, significant variation, if any, can be covered. So if it is justifiable, you can ignore and move ahead. If it is not justifiable, you will again deliberate into that particular head, and this will give you a very good insight. Then we come to procedure for client documents. Now, every working paper, you may take so many working papers from the clients, even if it is, nowadays we take working papers all on the soft copies are obtained. So every working paper which provided by the client goes through three basic levels of checking. So domain from which the email is received, whether it is received from an authorized person or not, or any unauthorized person who is giving a data. So this all you should mention in your audit papers. Who was the sender? Whether he was authorized to send that particular document. You will understand that from, because in your audit planning stage you have already maintained a client organization structure. So it can be traced by understanding of the hierarchy of the client. Arithmetical accuracy. So when you receive the data from the client, you will recalculate certain figures for whether those formulas which are being provided, suppose if some valuation is being done, valuation of finished goods is done. So we will recalculate that formula. So to check whether authenticity of that or accuracy of that arithmetical aspect of it. Cross tally. Whatever trial balances, financial statements are there, the document should be correctly matched with the. This is all basic things which I actually need not tell you, but still, it is forms part of the client's documents procedures. So I'll just touch upon those areas. What is the sanity of the data which is provided by the client that is not disturbed? If suppose they provide you certain data, but somebody does some mischief and another work, it replaces with another working paper, so you need to look into the authenticity or sanity of that particular document. Attestation. So sometimes they give you many documents which are not attested itself. So that is nothing but rubbish for you. So we need to ensure that a competent person is actually attesting those documents. For example, if you have a inventory count list, so that has to be a proper person has to attest that paper. Otherwise, that will be of no value to you. Then there are other documents like bank statements, loan agreements. So many times they give you just the draft loan agreements. That is of no value to you. So it has to be properly coming from the banker. The sanction letters should come from the banker. Articles and MOU nowadays it's so easy because now you have MCA site. So there you can download the AOA or MOA, and then you can get it attested by the management. So external confirmations which are obtained, those are of course more reliable than relying on the client. So these things are regarding the client's audit procedures. So this is all about it. I would like to hear something from the, if anybody has any queries or something, because I think I ran too fast. But that is what all I had to say.
We really had a very insightful session having Meenakshi ma'am as the speaker for the session. Do you have any queries? You could write it in the comment box probably, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question. And meanwhile, we get the queries. I must appreciate you, ma'am. The presentation was really drilled down to the basic thing that one might have to look into while conducting the audit for any kind of entity. And it was really, really knowledgeable session for sure. And it will be very helpful to us.
It was then, but I think I went too fast and covered it in a very short time. But then that is what I had to say. I don't know whether we have any questions and answers.
No. We were on the, as in we could catch the pace. So you need not worry that you were, rushing or something. We could very well understand. We could be on the same page.
Okay. So should we wait for 5 minutes?
Probably we can wait, or if we can see anything in the chat box.
I think this is a Zoom forum. The chats come, questions come in a different
forum, but probably they should have some link. I do not know, but let's see. Let's just wait for another 1 or 2 minutes so that if the members have any question, they can unmute themselves and ask the question. Ma'am, I just wanted to know, can we have this PPT?
Of course. I will share this PPT with the WYMEC team.
Okay.
I think they can maybe send in a group
Most likely,
or
because it is really helpful. I mean, I was initially thinking that I'll just take the snapshots, and then I thought that it is better to get the PPT directly.
Sure, I will definitely share it.
Yes. I guess there aren't any questions per se.
I was so thorough. I think I was very clear in my thoughts. So I think there's no question.
Yes, you can certainly make that conclusion for sure. I think Vrinda ma'am, you can go ahead.
Don't we have another handle from the viewer's point of view?
We do not have it.
Okay. So let's conclude the session.
Most likely.
Preeti ma'am and Abhay sir both are not available, right? Not at all.
Preeti,
No, Preeti is
actually, remember, we have the, as a principal of the institute, we have the letter of thanks for the speaker. So, by Vrinda, ma'am,
Yeah, that's me.
so please provide the, as the protocol, vote of thanks to our today's speaker.
Okay, fine. So, hello everyone. This is C. Vrinda Vakharia from Baruch branch of WIRC of ICI. On behalf of all the members and the management team, I am glad to be standing here to express my vote of thanks. A special thanks to our key speaker, CA Meenakshi Gupta ma'am, for accepting our invitation and giving us extensive knowledge on the topic audit of documentation for SMEs. Ma'am, definitely your PPT will be very much helpful to us. You drafted it so well. Although you said you jot down very few points, but it was very versatile. Definitely, it will be helpful to us. And as you said, the documentation is not only the front part; it's also much part from the back side also. Right. So thank you so much for your sharing the knowledge. Of course, we are grateful to Women and Young Members Excellence Committee, including our chairperson and vice chairperson, CA Preeti ma'am and CA Abhay sir, for such a kind, informative webinars under Sky High Symposium head. A wide round of applause to all the members participating here. And last but not the least, ICAI for feeding our mind with such great webinars, seminars, and CPE sessions throughout the year. Thank you so much, everyone.
One more thing I would
Ma'am.
like to just add is that along with my PPT, I will also share that audit procedures template,
Yes.
which I mentioned the base, which formed base of my presentation today. So that also I would like to share, because there are many a times it happens that the institute comes up with these lovely publications, but people are actually not aware of that. They miss those publications. We as senior chartered accountants, or maybe closely associated with ICI proceedings, we really come to know fast, and we keep these things handy with us. So other CAs can also take use of this particular book which I am talking about. I have it in a soft copy. So I would be really grateful if WYMAC, shares along with my PPT, if they can share this particular document also. I think this will become like a Bible for all the small and medium practitioners to conduct audit in a very, very easy and smooth manner.
That will be great, ma'am. Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you all the participants also.
Yes.
See you all in the next.
Chalo, see you all, and hope you have a very happy
you,
and cheerful
Sainath.
weekend
And
ahead.
Merry Christmas to all of you.
Okay.
Yes.
Bye. Thank you.
Chalo, bye bye.
Bye bye.